The Cazimi is spicy. This subject is kind of controversial. Everybody should know about your Cazimi. Bang, boom, bam. Oh my God, that is your year. This is where it gets really, really serious. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Now, this is the gift I really, really wanted to give you. Hi, everyone. It's Meredith, your evolutionary astrologer. And today we are going to have such a great day together. I'm about to blow your mind with our work on Cazimis. Yes, a Cazimi is very, very rare. And I want to ask you, do you have one? And is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, listen to this video and you will hopefully learn something totally brand new that you can put into your astrology toolkit. The first thing I want you to do is go get your gorgeous natal chart, and I want you to see if you have a conjunction to your sun. Today, what we're going to do is actually talk about 3 different solar conjunctions. And these 3 different solar conjunctions are the Cazimi, the combustion, and then another conjunction that we call under the sun's beams. But they are not combust and they are not Cazimi. Each one of them has a slightly different effect or take. And by the way, this subject is kind of controversial because the modern astrologers are fighting with the traditional astrologers around which planets can combust and what are the degrees and what if it's out of sign. And we're going to talk all about this giant controversy. It's going to be so good because I want you guys to learn such deep astrology. So this is going to be super fun. So go look at your chart or go look at people who you really think are pretty spectacular or different or unique in some way and see if they have a combustion, a Cazimi, or under the sun's beams in their chart with their sun. Now, I want you to think of something. You've always got to think secondarily about progressions because maybe you were born with Mercury close to your sun, applying up to your sun, but it wasn't quite. Well, at some point in your life, that Mercury will catch up to the sun. You could have a Cazimi year through your progressed chart. So always think about progressions. I also want to tell you, you can have Cazimis and you can have combustions and you can have under the sun's beams by transit. So think of those things. I want you really to expand your thinking when it comes to astrology. These will be very powerful times in your life. So we're going to talk all about it. And I am so excited to teach you this. So it's really fascinating to work with your progressed chart and to see, and if you're doing a reading with me, we can go look it up together inside your reading to see if your sun and your Mercury have had a Cazimi or a combustion inside your progressed chart yet. My Cazimi actually happened in 2008. And that was a really, really kind of mind-boggling time for me. And I really I remember a lot of anxiety and I was overwhelmed. If you guys remember, the United States housing market completely crashed in 2008. And I was upside down in my whole life. And I just did not know what to do to sell my home and get out from under it or to keep my home and white knuckle it. So I had to come up with a huge strategy in my life. And I remember being really, really, really mentally and emotionally tested at that time. So it's really fun to go back and see what your Cazimi timeline was by progression. And that's when you look at your progressed chart and you move it forward throughout your life. Anyways, I have an entire progressed playlist. If you want to go look at that and learn about progressions, it's kind of advanced. But for my advanced students, and by the way, there are so many of you, my advanced listeners, I should say, I want you to have a deeper understanding. Do you have a Cazimi, and is it a good thing or a bad thing? Now, I'm going to let you evaluate your Cazimi or your combustion or your under the sun's beams solar conjunction. That's a lot to say. And you tell me if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I wanted to share that with Oprah, that she does have a Cazimi with Venus conjunct the sun in the 3rd house of communication. The house matters. And I'm also going to tell you another surprise person in a minute. So here's some technical information, okay? You will have a Cazimi if your sun and another planet is within 0 to 17 minutes. That's not even a full degree. A full degree is that 60 minutes. If you have a conjunction between any planet and your sun within 17 minutes, so like Oprah's chart, she has them in different degrees, but they're still within that 17 minutes. That, my friends, is a Cazimi. And if you have a Cazimi in the comments, please write Cazimi. Everybody should know about your Cazimi. Everybody should know. And trust me, the people that know you, they know you got something. They just didn't know it was a Cazimi, probably. So tell me, where do you have your Cazimi? And now let's talk about the combustion. So I work with this orb. You might find it different on different places on the internet, but I just use a certain degree for all the planets. And I have found that other astrologers use different degrees depending on which planets that are outer, planets that are inner. So I use within 8 degrees of the sun, either side of the sun. Okay, you guys, so the Cazimi can happen on either side of the sun and the combustion can happen. That is huge. A combustion is a pretty big deal. A Cazimi is very, very rare. A combustion, it's not as rare as a Cazimi, but I would still say it is fairly rare. So do you have a combustion? That is a conjunction. That is a solar conjunction, a conjunction from another planet to your sun sign. And is it within 8 degrees? If so, it means that planet combusted. Okay, we're going to talk about it. Isn't it exciting to learn something new? Under the beams is within 17 degrees of the sun. And this is not so rare, especially with Mercury and Venus. I have this placement. So I want you to write in the comments, Cazimi, combustion, or under the beams, okay? And then tell us your planets. And I want you to think about what house this is in. There's a lot of things to think about, so I'm going to teach it all to you. And I want to make the case today to not necessarily think of this as a good thing or a bad thing. I'm going to talk to you about both sides of the equation, and you let me know and everybody else, so we can all learn from your experiences, how this affects your life, how this affects your natal chart. A lot of people say that wherever a planet goes under the beams of the sun, it's like literally living under the sun rays, that planet becomes weakened in some way. And oftentimes it takes on some sort of like hidden meaning, or it can behave in sort of a covert rather than an overt way. And it doesn't fit into the generic stereotype, if you will, or the generic expression of that planet. So for example, I have my Venus under the beams of the sun. I would say that how I find this to work is there's a preoccupation with Venetian things. There's a preoccupation with the arts. Before I was an astrologer, I worked in the arts. I got a BFA. I was an acting major and an art and dance minor in school. I also love romance, and I'm very romantic, and I love beauty, and I love beautiful things. So there's a deep preoccupation. But I will tell you something. I am a super outgoing person, but there's kind of a privacy too about the Venetian things in my life. And so I do think that the sun can swallow up the planet's energy and can make the Venus part, whatever planet you have, can make the other planet kind of become more inward thinking. I don't want to say introverted, but I do want to say go inward. So that's my experience. What's yours? I want to know yours. So we need to think of several things when we are working with our Cazimis, our combustions, and our under the beams conjunctions. So certain planets, I'm going to say, like I said, Mercury and Venus are more likely to fall under the beams. And that's because Mercury and Venus can only be 1 to 2 signs away, either in the same sign or 1 to 2 signs away from the sun. And so there's more chances for that algorithm to happen. Now, if you do have under the beams aspects, or if you don't, I don't want you to freak out. No freaking out, right? You got the perfect chart. There is no bad chart. You got the perfect chart for your life. If you have your planet under the beams, it can act more covert. It can have sort of edges, or the sharper edges, or the preoccupation of those things can be quieted. But I'll tell you that there is a deep internal relationship to that planet if you've got them under the beams. A combustion, I will say, is far, far more extreme than under the beams. So some ancient astrologers, or those who use ancient astrology, medieval or Hellenistic, they will even go up to a 12-degree orb for combustions. And I don't do that. I only go up to 8 degrees. So you can play with the different degrees. But what I want to tell you is that if you've got your planet combusted, you are not in trouble. You are not even challenged. It's not doom and gloom type of feeling. No, 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 no. It's going to be intense energy that you're going to work with. And now we have the skills and the tools to be able to handle unique aspects. I will tell you, though, that there might be something unique or eccentric or creative or different about you with a combustion or a Cazimi. You might be really playing, along to the beat of a different kind of drum. So we need to know which planets are involved in this solar conjunction. And every planet has its own way of expressing itself. So for example, and we're going to go through all the planets, so stay tuned. For example, Mercury can lead to challenges inside thinking, inside organizing thoughts, or getting thoughts expressed into the world. And it can also be a person who doesn't hold their hand up or speak out loud. I also want to tell you the house matters. Yes, it does. What's more important, the house, right? Or the planet or the sign? They are all equally important. And we can only know the house if we know your birth time. That's why I'm really sad when we don't have a birth time. And then we have to do a rectification. So if you don't know your birth time and you want to get a reading, we can rectify your chart. And it's really exciting to do. So the house placement is super important because this is going to tell us wherever this combustion takes place, it is showing us the part or the piece of your life that it is affecting. I also want to tell you, you've got to look and see if your combustion or your Cazimi or your under the beams planet has love and hugs from the other planets. Is there a positive aspect to that particular planet by your ascendant, your midheaven, or a benefic planet in your chart? Again, I want you to think of Cazimi as very, very rare, but I want to give you kind of a little bit of an analogy. It's kind of like if this other planet gets so close to this, burning ball of light, think of the sun like a desert. It just completely incinerates, right? If you got too close to the sun, what would happen? It would be blindingly bright. We're not supposed to look directly at the sun. And it is as if the other planet got swallowed up. This is Cazimi and combustion. This is not under the sun's beams. Under the sun's beams is like you laying out at high noon in the direct sunlight. And it still is affected. It is still affected. It still sort of, I think, gives more life to that planet, but it can also take your energy away. Think about this. Think about, I love to dance. I was a dance minor in college. Think about if you danced all night, how fun that could be. You know, how you were just into the music, you were rocking out. If you don't like to dance, think of yourself at at a great concert where you were just rocking out all night. How you had so much euphoria and so much extra energy and you were just having a blissfully great, fabulous, fantastic time, right? But the next day or at the end of the night, you were totally exhausted and it just soaked up all your energy and you just needed to recover for a whole day. That's what Cazimi feels like. So there is a depletion and there is also sort of this exaltation. So there is this pumping into you, this life force energy, but also a taking away. It's kind of like Disneyland. I swear to God, I need two Excedrins and slippers for the whole next day after Disneyland, right? Like the standing in line. I need to borrow my dad's cane that has a little chair on it. And I think everybody should have a little chair in line. That is exhausting, just waiting 5 hours in line, right? So it's like that. So it's euphoric and it's super fun, but it is really, really tiring. So I want you to think about that other planet being engulfed and it kind of evaporates inside the belly of the sun. Think about Cazimi, meaning into the heart of the sun I go, right? And that again is if it's less than 17 minutes away, not even a full degree, not even 1/3 of a degree. It is so close. But I want to tell you, I have seen how a Cazimi grants special dignity and boosts the strength of a planet, but it's probably also exhausting. I was thinking about Oprah. She has Venus in Cazimi with her sun in the 3rd house. And I think her life is as invigorating and fun as it is exhausting. Do you see what I mean? So I don't want you to think of it as good or bad. I want you to think of it as energetic. It's kind of what I want. So when the planet is combust, it becomes invisible because it is eclipsed by the sun. It has been soaked up by your own vitality, by your own desire, by your own creativity, by your own expression, your own essence, your own passion, your own excitement, your own desire to create or procreate, your own sexuality too. It becomes one with your sun. And so now we have to also ask ourselves, not only what other planets are supporting this Cazimi or this combustion, what house is this in? Does this other planet like being in this sign? Right? We're going to talk about that in a minute. And here's my next question for you. Is that planet applying to the sun or is it separating away from the sun? So is it in a waxing or waning position to the sun? It's very important to know that. And so look to see if the planet next to the sun, which can be on either side, right? See if you've got a Cazimi by looking at those minutes. See if you have a combustion by looking at the degrees. See if you have it under the beams. It's between 9 degrees and 17 degrees because we're going to give the whole entire 8th degree to the combustion. So the combustion is 0 to 8 degrees. And that can go to 8 degrees, 59 minutes. Just to be clear for my Virgos out there, I love talking to my Virgos. My Virgos, I know they need my Sagittarius to get it tight and get it right. I know. I never want to disappoint my Virgos. Virgos, am I disappointing you? Let me know sweetly. I always like to improve my game. I want you to see if the other planet, whether it's Mars or Mercury, is moving towards the sun or if it's separating away from the sun. And so basically, if it is at a higher degree than the sun, your sun is at 1 degree and your Mercury is at 10 degrees, right, of the same sign. Well, that is Mercury separating from the sun. If it's separating, it's traveling away from the sun. It has its back to the sun. It doesn't have its face to the sun. It has its back. For example, let's take Saturn. If your sun is at 1 degree and your Saturn is 2 degrees, it's moving away from the influence of the sun. Saturn has its back to the sun and it's moving away from, it's leading the sun. However, this is where it gets really, really serious, okay? And I haven't found this taught anywhere, but I want you to think about something. What if you have that Saturn 2 degrees and your sun is at 1 degree, right? But that Saturn is retrograde, right? It's actually moving towards the sun, isn't it? Oh my God, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? If the planet that is separating from the sun, right, is at the higher degree, you've got your Saturn at 2 degrees and you have your sun at 1 degree, and it's not a Cazimi. Well, if that Saturn is retrograding, then we know that it's moving back towards the sun. And then it's kind of funny because it's in a retrograde applying aspect. I know. That's deep. So if you're following me and if you get this, please put a note in the comment. So if your sun is at 10 degrees and Mars is at 9 degrees of the same sign, it is also combust, right? But Mars is at 9 degrees and the sun is at 10. Mars is moving towards the sun, right? Now, let's just do my retrograde trick again. What if this applying to the sun is at that 9 degrees, but it's retrograde? Right? It's moving away from. And this is going to show up in your progressed chart. So when you are just 2 years old, that Mars has moved even further away from the sun. And 3 years old, it's moved further away because it's in retrograde. So you've got to pay attention to your retrogrades, and the retrogrades will just blow your mind because it will play a trick on you. So if you have a Cazimi and it's retrograde, see if it's moving towards the sun for real, or if it's moving away from the sun. That's very, very tricky. Tell me who got that. Tell me if you got it. If not, I want you to stop right here, rewind, and play that again. So just remember this. Remember, if the planet is behind the sun, that is going to be, and if it's at a lower degree, that is going to be applying to the sun, and it creates that solar conjunction. It creates more intensity when the face of that planet is moving towards the sun, right? Just like in real life, if you've got your sun to the back of you, it doesn't seem to hurt as much or be as strong as if the sun is right here. If the planet is moving away from, the sun, then this aspect, this Cazimi or combustion or under the sun's beams, is less intense. It's less likely to be as loud. It's going to show up in a softer, quieter way. It's still going to be there, but it's going to show up in a little quieter way. Now you're not like at an acid rock concert. You're at, you're probably at a soul concert, right? Where they're singing a beautiful ballad. So the music is just a little bit softer. So the tighter the aspect, the more profound the impact is. When the sun and the other planet have an 8-degree division, right? Conjunction, I should say. It is less intense than a 2-degree conjunction. So those Cazimis and combustions are very, very, very intense. And I want you to take special note if that planet is retrograding away from or towards the sun, because you might think that it's applying, but if it has a little retrograde there, it could be going backwards. It could be separating. And you might think that you have a separating other planet, but it's retrograde, so it's actually going towards the sun. Did you guys get it? Tell me that you got it. Please tell me if you got it. And if not, just go back and rewatch this. Now, I also want to tell you why this is important, because when you work with your progress chart, and if you've got, and if you want to do this, we can do this together if you have a reading booked with me. But let's say that you've got this separating, like I said, this separating Mercury, but it's actually retrograde in your chart. Well, we have to go look at the day when that separating Mercury that's in retrograde is going to come back into combustion, and then we're going to look at the years that it is combust, and then we're going to look at the year that it goes Cazimi. Pop, bang, boom, bam. Oh my God, that is your year. That is your year. That is your, if it's Mercury, that is your year of massive insight. It could be mental breakdown leading you to massive insight, right? It could be like how I was in 2008, where I was like, what am I going to do? I don't even think I slept that night. I was so filled with anxiety. I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I was like, oh my God, my life is crumbling. Well, it got me into strategy. And so I want to tell you, I don't see these as good or bad. Sometimes bad things lead us to good things, right? And I say that in air quotes. So I really want you to see, how have these Cazimis played out? And it's super, super fun to look and see if you've had one by progression. And let me tell you, you're going to have them all year long by transit, because that sun is moving through the whole zodiac. So when that sun hits that degree of your moon, you'll see when it goes into Cazimi. When that transiting sun hits your Mars, you'll see when it goes into Cazimi. Pick out your days. My friends, listen to this. What I want you to do is go get your ephemeris. Hopefully you have yours. Hold on. I use this one for transits. Now I use the other red one that I've showed you guys. I can see and I can look up when the sun is going to be in Cazimi or combust to my own Mercury and to my Venus and to my Mars. And that's a big day. I mean, I want to bring in a lot of positive energy on those days, just so I don't blow everything up, right? And so this is a great way to use the ephemeris, and this goes all the way to 2050. So I can go take the degree and the minute of my natal planet, and I can see, so let's say I have a 3-degree, 15-minute Mars. Well, I know, and it's in Libra. So I know that the sun, right, is going to be in Libra at 3 degrees around September 21st-ish. And when I look here, I see, this year on September 23rd, the sun is at 3 degrees, right, where my Mars sits. And I can see that day it's either going to Cazimi or combust. So that's how I use my ephemeris. And you want to write down your potent days. You want to write down your Cazimi days using the transiting sun with your planets. So when the transiting sun is sitting on your planet, that's another way to really look at the Cazimi. The Cazimi can also work just using the placement of your sun. And when the planets transit your sun down there within a 17-minute orb or combustion up to 8 degrees, it's in combust. So you can do it both ways. I just like to track the sun on my planets, but you can track all the planets to your sun as well. It's exciting. It's really, really exciting. So I have found in my studies that modern astrologers, and I'm an evolutionary modern astrologer, have a little bit more of a positive outlook or interpretation on combustions, Cazimis, and under the sunbeams. Traditional astrology, I have found, interprets the planet that is in the Cazimi or the combustion or even under the sun's beams as sort of losing its vitality and losing its sense of purpose and even losing its identity. So it's confusing. And I have found that modern astrologers like myself, we interpret these 3 different conjunctions, these solar conjunctions, as creating more vitality and life force energy a little bit more positively. So again, it's really, really confusing. And I love introducing you to new ideas and new concepts. And I love hearing how these new concepts and new ideas play out in your own life and in your own charts. So we got to think about it. I want to tell you both sides of the same coin. So the planet. When the planet is conjunct, you know that it becomes invisible. It gets eclipsed by the sun. Remember, again, if you have a Cazimi, you're soon going to move into a combustion. And then shortly after that, you're going to move into an under the beams. And that's by progression. And that's also a few days after you are born. This is going to happen. A few other thoughts. When a planet merges with the sun, and is in a Cazimi or a combustion, I feel like that planet gets the life force energy of your sun. So is your sun in a happy house? Is your sun in a happy aspect? Does your sun have a lot of benefic planets or favorable aspects, trines, or sextiles? And so I feel like this planet is sort of like sitting on a solar panel, getting charged up. It's like a charging station of a solar panel. And so it can make the planet more sun-like. It can create extra strength. It can create like a desire for new creativity, new expression, ambition, vitality. It can be quite fertile. It can make this planet quite fertile because the sun is our life force, right? And so now you can feel the energy of the sun. And even you could even feel more sexual with this, because what does the sun do? It creates life. And so it mates with this other planet. It infuses into. And so it becomes really dramatic. And the sun is dramatic because it rules our ego. This other planet is now living inside the sun's essence, vitality, and energy. And you can't see this planet anymore. But the DNA of that planet is now enmeshed into your soul. That's my take on it. That's just me and my evolutionary 2 cents about Cazimis and combustions. So you might also find out that you have to dig a little bit for that planet because it's living inside of the sun, right? So it becomes kind of encased. It kind of becomes the peanut in the peanut M&M, and it kind of moves inward and self-contained and self-focused and self-absorbed even. It can be an active but unseen internal part of you. It could be hard to find. It could be the mind that gets buried, the heart, or the energy, depending on which planet that we're talking about. The mind, Mercury, the heart, the moon, Mars, energy. It goes into oneself. So you need to see how that planet that is in conjunction with the sun is received by the entire chart. Is it happy? Is it challenged? I'm going to give you one other clue in a minute here. Just hold on with me because I want to give you one more pro tip. But I want to tell you that there are misconceptions about combustions that I kind of want to put at rest. And that is that people think that Cazimis and combustions are just like always bad, and they're not. You guys, what they're like is eclipses. Why? Because it creates the new moon type of energy. So I want you to think of an eclipse. Is an eclipse good or bad? Well, It depends on the houses, the aspects, and the planets, right? It depends on so many other things. You can't just say eclipses are bad. If you were born on an eclipse, wow, you probably shocked your mom and dad, but I bet you it changed their lives forever. And probably because it's you, it was for the better. I want to say that it's not entirely a bad thing or detrimental or hard to deal with, but it usually is a big rumble, like let's rumble. It is a big, big energy. I want you to think about this for real. When Venus moves up to the sun, we can no longer, in the sky, in the night sky, we can no longer see Venus. It's being blocked. That's because it's in Cazimi. It is eclipsed by the sun. And so when that planet disappears, whether it's Mars or Saturn or Mercury, into the arms of the sun, and we can no longer see that planet in the sky, it's sort of cloaked, it's guarded, it is encased into, but I would say it goes invisible. And the sun makes it go invisible because the sun is eclipsing it. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. That planet is still there. That planet is not dead. That planet is not existing. That planet isn't just without a pulse, right? We can't see them, but that planet is still very much alive. And it just is invisible to our eye. However, it is highly, highly active. I love Bernadette Brady. I've studied with her a couple of times, and she is just genius. Oh my God. If you ever get to go to Bernadette Brady's lectures, she's absolutely brilliant. Buy her books. She's phenomenal. I want to credit her with this. But she says that planet moves into a different realm. I took her class on Cazimis and combustions, and it was fascinating. She said it's like students drop out of law school in order to pursue their passion of art, right? And she calls these planets that are affected by the sun's beams or combustion or Cazimi as enchanted. She sees them as enchanted placements, enchanted planets. And I thought that was really beautiful. The sun is the protector or the guard of the planet now. So the sun has swallowed it up, and now it is the protector and the life force. It's loaning its life force to the expression of that planet. Now, this is the gift I really, really wanted to give you, and this is a big, big deal. One of the things that I've learned from more traditional astrology is that if the planet that is in that solar conjunction is in its own domicile, so, for example, if Mercury is in Gemini or Virgo or Venus in Taurus or Libra, or if Mars is in Aries or Scorpio, right? It's in its own domicile. So the planet and the sign are in their own domicile. This is considered a very good aspect. And what I've read and what I've studied and what I've experienced is this helps that Cazimi or combustion act in a way that is more beneficial, or it can produce that enchantment. It can now, as Bernadette Brady said, it acts like a magician or a sleight of hand. It is, yes, engulfed by the sun still, but because you've got it in its own domicile, it's very, very, very high functioning, and it loans that high function to the chart, to the power of the Cazimi, right? And it has an exaltation to it. And so that is what is so exciting. So do you have a Cazimi? Is it applying or separating, right? Is it in retrograde, this other planet? And is it in its own domicile? So if it is, there is a level of ease that comes with it. And a lot of ancient astrologers say that it is actually protected by the burning rays of the harsh, harsh sun. So let's talk about the planets that are in combustion or Cazimi, right? Or even in the sun's beams. And now you know that the Cazimi is the harshest and the most in your face. The combustion is loud, right? It's like if a bomb went off, it didn't necessarily go off right here, but it went off in my kitchen, I'd still feel it, right? And under the sun's rays, it's the same thing. It's just a little bit more of a milder version. It's like, how hot do you like your hot sauce, people? I like Cazimi hot sauce. I know. I have to tell you this cute story. So my Indian friends took us out for Indian food. My husband doesn't really love Indian food, but that's only because he doesn't know what to order. And I love Indian food, and I kind of know how to order it, but I'm not that great. I'm kind of intimidated. So my Indian friends said, Meredith, we're going to take you, gringos out. and we're going to have so much fun and we're going to order. And I said, that's fantastic. We get to the spice level and the waiter asks us, what spice level do you want? My husband and I are like, how many stars does it go to? And they say 5 and we order 4. And my 2 Indian friends, adorable, darling, I just love them so much. They both look at us like with saucers, like eyes as white as saucers. And they're like, Indian spice isn't like Hispanic or Mexican spice. And I'm like, oh, I do. I grew up on Thai spice. Oh, me. Ooh. And she was like, well, Meredith, I only do 3, just so you know. And I was like, well, can I still try 4? Because I really like spice. And she's like, absolutely. So she gets her dish in 3. I get mine in 4. And my husband gets his in 4. He thinks it's very spicy. I get mine and I'm just chit-chatting away, having the greatest time. I don't even notice the spice. And she's like dying, choking on a 3. So people, I like Cazimi spice. And she kept saying, wow, wow, wow. I am so surprised. Do you need milk? Are you okay? Do I have taste buds left? I don't think so. I grew up in Arizona and then I spent 10 summers in Thailand where the Thai spice is spicy. Anyways, I can do spice. I can eat raw jalapenos. It's no big deal. It's like, is this a pickle? Anyways, she's like, but how is this happening? Anyways, I just wanted to tell you that the Cazimi is spicy. It's spicy. So let's talk about these planets. So the sun is never combust, okay? It is a planet that gets close to the sun that creates the combustion, but the sun is never going to be combust. Remember, go back to how I told you to work with, if you don't have a Cazimi or a combustion or under the sun's rays, you don't have any conjunctions to the sun. Like my daughter, she has no conjunctions to the sun. Her sun is a lonely little island all by itself. Believe me, that is not a bad thing. But she can go look up by progression in transit what days she's going to have a Cazimi or a combustion or under the sun's rays transits, right? So go back to that part of the video. So let's talk about these planets. When you have Mercury in Cazimi, combustion, or under the sun's rays, it controls the speech, it controls the mind, and it controls the way you think. And when it's combust, it can create confusion. And it can create insecurity and a lack of ability to talk well or express yourself well. And you can encounter difficulties around learning. And this is where I want to tell you something. And this is why I don't want you guys to judge like, oh, it's bad, oh, it's good. But Thomas Edison, he has a combust, applying Mercury to the sun in the 3rd house. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Thomas Edison's teachers said, literally quote, sent home a note to his mother. Do you guys know this story? Do you know this story? Oh my God. This broke my heart. And I also thought it was the best revenge story that we will ever hear in our lifetimes. He literally came home with a note that said, Thomas is, quote, too stupid to learn anything. What teacher would ever say such a thing? Like, that is criminal. That ruins people. Well, it didn't ruin Thomas. He also was fired from his first 2 jobs for being non-productive. He wasn't motivated. Yeah, he probably had no passion for it. And the teacher considered him mentally disabled. Luckily, Thomas Edison's mama, who, God bless her, I don't know anything about her, she believed that her son was brilliant. And she pulled him out of that darn school, thank God, and she taught him herself. Yes, she did. He invented the incandescent light bulb. Hello. We wouldn't even be sitting here right now if it wasn't for him with this incandescent light bulb invention. But his very first invention, I thought it was very, very interesting that he got his very first patent on this electric vote recorders. So when the Congress and the Senate congregated, it could take the votes really quickly and add them up super fast. And that was his very first patent. But his inventions are in the categories of batteries, electric lights, cement, mining. I looked this up. I couldn't believe it. Motion pictures, telegraphs. I mean, that was the mail. Also telephones. So what the hell? So when we say that a Cazimi or a combustion or under the sun's rays is a bad thing, I really think that does not serve astrology well. Yeah, I think it can be a bad thing. Look at what happened to him. His teacher said he was too stupid to learn anything. That's bad. That's cruel. That's criminal. That's mean. You don't do that to a child. That's literally a gut punch. That is a sucker punch. That is removing somebody's life force energy. Thank God he had a mother that could probably prop him up. And thank God he had enough will and disposition. By the way, it's in Aquarius, which I think is interesting because that's the higher octave of the mind. But yes, that's a bad thing. A bad thing turned into a good thing. So if you have a Cazimi and if you've had setbacks, just know that you have so much power. You are a powerhouse on the inside. You might just need to experience some setbacks in order to find the motivation to do something truly great, like Thomas Edison. God bless that man. Let's talk about Venus combustion. Okay, so Venus is the god of love and beauty and peace and harmony and the aesthetics and art and romance and glamour and anything you desire and love, right? It's this platonic love. And a combust Venus can make romantic relationships complicated or can make chasing the wrong person where love is not reciprocated. It can make it also hard for one to get their art maybe into a gallery or show their talent off, or it might make them feel insecure around their beauty. I'm just not beautiful enough, right? They might find it difficult to get their desires met until they don't, until they get over themselves, right? So it could be something as simple as you're getting a ton of plastic surgery because you think you should, Botox, lip injections, whatever, all this plastic surgery, only to realize that you don't really need any of that to truly be beautiful because your authentic beauty might even be prettier than that. But you go through that process only to learn that that's not really the truth of your beauty. That's just a silly example, but it's one. So let's talk about a Mars combustion or Cazimi. This is your energy. This is your sex drive. This is your courage. This is your willpower. This is the way in which you move through life and take action and the way in which you will fight. And so the combustion here could create an internal aggression where you hate yourself or you hate something about yourself, leading to being passive aggressive or frustrated or self-harming, self-hurting, and it might also lessen your stamina. You might have a burst of giant energy, but you could also soon have exhaustion. Like I talked about Disneyland in the beginning of this video. This is literally like Disneyland. Dance all night on the dance floor, and then you're exhausted for a day where you have to learn to rest. So you could have too much, you might put too much out there in the world to the point where now you're ill or frail. Let's talk about Jupiter. When Jupiter is combust, Jupiter is the planet that expands everything. It governs expansion and growth and your best highest self, your optimism. It's your lucky charm. It is also your faith. It is the indoctrination of your belief system. And it is truly what you believe. It can be your religion. But this can reduce some of those things, or your optimism or your happiness, your joy, your highest self, or discovering who you were born to be or what you truly believe in is latent. Or you might need to go deep within yourself. You might not find your belief system out there in the world. You might need to rely on yourself, your ego, your identity, your sun to help you shape your own beliefs. You might need to break away from the religion or the cultural ways in which you've been held back or set back in a way. And you can also find that you might lose faith before you find a new belief system that gives you faith. So let's talk about the moon. So when the moon is combust, that means you're born under a new moon, right? But if you're born under a really, really, really tight sun-moon conjunction, wow, this is huge. And this could be an eclipse. If the nodes are there, you're in an eclipse. You were born on an eclipse. So if you have one of my gorgeous natal charts, by the way, I usually tell you in the upper right-hand corner how close the eclipse was at the time you were born. So you can see how many days after or before you were born was there an eclipse. And by the way, I really recommend that you get my unique chart rulers report. I recommend that you get my soul's design report. And I really recommend that you get my child's report. It's not just for children. Those are my 3 favorite reports. They are so, so good. I absolutely love it. I love the unique chart rulers. Not very many people order that, probably because I don't talk about it. But you want to know what your chart rulers are doing. And you've got 12 of them because every house is ruled by a sign, which is in turn ruled by a planet. So I really recommend you just do some deep diving with me. And I have tons of reports. I have love and compatibility, marriage reports. Go check them all out. Go check them all out. It's at shopsoulnavigation.com. So let's talk about the moon. So the moon is your heart. It is your emotions and your feelings. It is your inner sanctuary. It's where you feel safe, how you feel safe. And it is, I guess I might even say, like the internal peacefulness that you can create for yourself and that you feel. And so when the moon is Cazimi or Combust, or even sometimes under the sun's beams, it can lead to emotional roller coasters. It can lead to dramatic feelings. It can lead to an unsteadiness, an instability, an insecurity, literally not feeling at secure with myself or with my home. And your moods can really fluctuate, big highs, big lows, big drama, big time, big, right? And you can be outraged one minute and then happy the next. And so it's high highs and low lows. It can be very manic, and then it can be completely lethargic. And I don't want to participate and I don't want to do it. It can be hot and cold. So like if somebody broke up with you for absolutely no good reason at all, they're just crazy that way. Like, why would they ever leave you? Right? Like, why did you break up with me? Well, go look and see what their moon is doing in their chart. Do they have a new moon, Cazimi or combustion? Right? And they might not feel emotionally safe or stable. Let's talk about Saturn. So Saturn is how we're disciplined, the structure of our life. It's our responsibilities. It's our lessons. It's where we're kind of oppressed, though, where we're suppressed, where we are figuring out our own authority, how we will become our own authority in life. With the sun here, it can go both ways. Again, you guys, it's like eclipse energy. It can make you extraordinarily due diligence, extraordinarily rigid in your rules and regulations, in your corporate climb, in whatever is your discipline. You could just be so hardworking, but it could also, that Saturn could be hard to find, hard to reach, and it could be consumed by your sun where you really don't want to put in the hard work, the effort, or the energy, and you could become kind of lazy or less productive, to tell you the truth. When Pluto is combust to the sun, this is very, very intense. This is about power, right? And this is also about intense transformation. And so fatigue can happen here, but there is such an intensity here. Just think of Pluto and the sun enmeshed together can just become obsessive, power hungry. It can be a great healer and transformer, but it's probably going to have to learn how to use its power in this lifetime. If this is in Scorpio, this could be a very talented spy, I will say, or somebody who does detective work. So you have to realize that the sun is soaking up all of Pluto's energy, right? The sun doesn't really recognize this. Now the sun, the soul has a heaviness to it, and it has an intensity to it. And I'll say that these people probably, if they get upset, they can get absolutely enraged. And they have very strong egos. They usually have experienced somebody trying to bully them. So they've had to become very, very, very powerful people. One thing that I will say that can be kind of negative with Sun conjunct Pluto in a Cazimi or a combustion is that they are not objective people at all. They actually can be so wounded in life that they cannot get past their own wound. And they see life subjectively. They see life from their own psychological wounds, and their own experiences make them believe that that's how all people should be, or that's how all people feel, or they might categorize things like, this woman that looked like this hurt me, so all women that look like that will hurt me, right? So there can be this over-identification with those who have wounded them, and they can really suffer that way. But if they can, like Thomas Edison, I hope you watch that part. Go watch that. If they can heal themselves well enough and transform the pain, the suffering, and the wounds, they can become some of the greatest healing agents in the world. Okay, when the sun and Uranus are combust or in one of these solar conjunctions, there is such a desire to be different, to be unique, to put your unique stamp on life. You might even feel like you're not included, or you've been outcasted, or you're eccentric, or you're just so uniquely different that you can't figure out early in life where you land or where to sit or where to be. And you might also see that you don't want to be owned, controlled, and that you have a really big rebellious streak. You can be absolutely brilliant And if you're willing to accept your differences and your uniqueness and kind of put your passions into play, your talents into play in a way where you really don't care what other people think, that's how you can find the greatness in this aspect. If you have Neptune here, wow, you can really get lost in the dream of life. But this one is really, really tricky. Whenever I see Sun conjunct Neptune, even if it's within a really wide conjunction, my heart usually skips a beat. And these are going to be really imaginative people that really live out the dream. And yet I think there's silent suffering inside a Neptunian Sun person, especially if it's Cazimi or Combust or under the beams. And that is because they are so sensitive. And now you are just so sensitive to the slights and the fights in life towards you or at you, but you also have a sensitivity for the world. And it's paralyzing to be that sensitive. And I recommend, oh my God, it should be mandatory, but I'm just going to strongly recommend that if you've got Neptune conjunct the Sun, or if you have Neptune prominently placed in your chart, Neptune rising, Neptune moon, please go get my Neptune workshop in my shop at shopsoulnavigation.com. I did an entire day on Neptune. It had me almost in tears. It is so beautiful and painful at the same time. There's melancholy here. There's a losing your identity. So Neptune erodes the ego and the Sun is the ego. So what the hell, right? So a lot of times these people turn to substances or they have to escape their own Sun. That means escaping their own selves. And so if you see a really, really troubled person out there that has completely lost themselves, go see if they've got a Neptune Cazimi Sun, Neptune Cazimi Sun, Neptune Combust Sun. But also there's kind of like a madman artistic genius with this placement, because you can completely lose yourself in your creativity. Yeah, I would love to see who's got, if you guys want to help me, leave it in the notes. Who's got a Cazimi Sun Neptune? Oh my God, that's what we need to find out. So I've got to go do my research on who all these people are. What about if there's multiple planets combusting, right? Caziming. Well, they become internalized and they become a little bit self-absorbed, just to be honest. They become very self-driven, self-focused, my wounds, my perspective, my favorite color, my beliefs, my way, what I have learned. They become very subjective is the way. And they have a very difficult time leaving their own energy behind, learning from your lessons. So I always say, like, I can tell you what I learned from my lessons and pass that on to you. And hopefully you won't do the stupid thing I did and you can learn from my lesson, but very few people can do that. That's this aspect. These people probably cannot do this. They have to go learn what it means to gamble all their money away, right? To know what it means to gamble all your money away, right? I can't just say, hey, I gambled all my money away. I'm homeless. I don't have health care. I can't take care of myself. I've got really big problems. I don't want you to be like that. So don't do that. Right? They can't learn from that. So it's very, very subjective. And they also have a higher sensitivity, and they kind of have to plan their own way in life according to their own thoughts, ideas, beliefs, rules, and regulations. They kind of also can get so buried inside of themselves that they are all consumed with their issues, and maybe they have dramatic lives like that where they have to be all consumed in order to just stay alive. Also, sometimes can have a secret side or a dark side. They can hide their pain. They hide that planet sometimes inside of them, and those planets, I should say. And I want to remind you, this is my big reminder, progressions resolve combustions and Cazimis. So you got to start studying your progress charts. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you can have a combustion under the sun's beams and a Cazimi all in out of sign conjunctions. So if you have a 29 degree, 59 minute Cancer planet, and you have a 0 degree, 5 minute Leo sun, that is a Cazimi. Okay, so you can have them out of sign. And I had to make sure that I told you that. And you can have your combustion all the way into a whole nother sign, and you can have under the sun's beams in another sign, right? So they can be out of sign conjunctions, solar conjunctions. And the traditional astrologers didn't necessarily feel that, but modern astrologers, a lot of them do. And that's just what I've learned, and I wanted to share that with you. So I hope that helps. I hope this helps. I hope you guys loved learning about this. And what I want to do is I want you guys to leave me a comment, please, on what would you like to see next? What kind of video on astrology would you like me to do next? I have so many. I have over 2,000 videos now. So what else would you like to learn about? I'm thinking of opening up an academy where I'm going to teach a foundations course online, and I'm going to go live. We're going to read charts. I'm trying to get this together for January. But in the meantime, I want you to come study with me. I've got 10 spots available for Nice, France. It's where my next workshop is. I don't know if I'm going to do another workshop abroad. So come this time, and if it goes well, we'll talk about it. But I would love for you guys to come. It's the last weekend in August. You can find the tickets and find the information at soulnavigation.com. I hope you will come, and have French fun with me in the French Riviera. And the coolest group of people are already signed up, and I've got 10 tickets left. So grab yours and come learn with me. What we're going to do in France is a little bit different because I'm going to dedicate an entire day to just reading your charts. Yes. So you're going to get to work specifically on your own natal chart, and we are going to pick it apart. It's going to be fan-friggin-tastic. And it's because it's really, really, really intimate, and it's a small group of people. So we can do it. So we're going to read charts. Going to be so fun. Come with me. I cannot wait. And I hope you're wonderful wherever you are at in this world. I hope that you find love, peace, beauty, and happiness. So from my heart here in Seattle to wherever you are at, I wish you the very, very best.